Oh, that's nice. You're gonna blow some first.
Very approximate. Well, I got 3 o'clock here. Just we might as well get started. We got a couple last minute folks coming in here, but first off, if you can't hear me, then you probably should move a little bit closer, and that way you can hear. So up here, for those that don't know, we got Stephen Mackey, who is the Senior Vice President of Wood Products Canada, and then I think everybody knows Franco. And then we've got Kevin Horsnell. A lot of folks will probably know him as well, and he's Vice President of the Wood Products Group for the company. So yeah, so again, if you guys want to get a little bit tighter and come in, I don't know, hopefully you can hear Stephen. So
yeah, I'll try to speak up. Thanks, James. And I mean, again, yeah, as James said, if you can't hear me, folks, just hopefully you can try to get up a little bit so that folks can see and hear me. Thank you all for making the effort to come out here this afternoon. My apologies for, on behalf of the company and the organization, to have to call you out here today. And I wish that we were here with different news. Unfortunately, we are here with very difficult news as it relates to the Mackenzie operation and the challenging decision that we have had to make with respect to the future of this facility, which at this time we have decided to indefinitely curtail our Mackenzie operations. Obviously, the folks here are all well aware. You've been feeling it and living through it, as has the rest of the team here in Mackenzie. The challenges that we have been facing for some time. We're in week 5 of a previously announced 6-week shutdown, and we really have not seen any appreciable improvement in market conditions. Lumber prices went up a little bit initially to start with on the heels of the announcement we made here, along with the announcements in Houston and Plateau and some of the other operations across the company. And we've seen lumber prices fall back down, and in the meantime we saw a July 1st stumpage increase. So on a net basis, the economics of this business today unfortunately do not warrant a restart, and we cannot continue to run this facility and sustain the losses that we have been incurring for the last year here. Despite all of the best efforts of everyone here and all of the folks that work here on the management and the leadership team, all of our contractors, every employee that is represented here today, as well as the folks that were unable to be here, it's our sincere regret for the impact on you and your families and the community of Mackenzie. It's incredibly challenging in that we have been here before. Many of you were here in 2008 when in June 08 this operation went through a similar challenge in the last major downturn in the industry. It's incredibly sad for us to be back here and facing this kind of a challenge again, a little over 10 years later, despite all of the great efforts by everybody here, all of your hard work, all your commitment and dedication, and all of the investments in time and resources and money that have been put into this business. Despite that, the challenges that we face in the province of BC today, with simply too much productive capacity in the province relative to the available, sustainable, and economic timber supply, we just are out of balance. The lumber markets remain depressed. Again, we haven't seen any appreciable price improvement, and lumber demand and lumber price does not support continuing to operate here. And unfortunately, this announcement in terms of the indefinite closure, and I'll come back to that in a second, because it doesn't provide a whole bunch of certainty as to what that means. But what we don't see is those conditions changing in the short term to allow us to operate this facility. Thus, the nature of the announcement of the shutdown is now indefinite. And really, what we believe there is that in the short term, things won't change. So it is not a short-term shutdown. It will be longer term in duration. I'll let Franco talk for a moment about what we think the next few weeks look like, and I'll let Kevin talk a little bit about the fiber supply challenges that we face. But I guess from us, on behalf of me personally, whole organization, a whole company, you know, this is incredibly challenging. I know this decision is most impactful for everyone standing out here, and again, the community and your families. And it's not an easy decision on anyone here, and across the industry. We're seeing Canfor and other companies have to take very difficult decisions to protect the future of our organizations, and we see a lot of capacity shutdowns. You guys probably see them in the news and in the paper, both on a temporary basis and a permanent basis, that have happened across the province of BC. Unfortunately, I think there is still yet more to come across the province of the BC in the forest industry. So again, my thanks for all of your efforts. I again sincerely regret this decision, and maybe I'll just turn it over to Franco to say a few words as well.
Yeah, so it's a difficult message that is coming out today, and by no means I don't think any one of us want to hear it, and I can guarantee you the three people standing up here did not want to deliver it. Unfortunately, that's the way the economic conditions in the province of British Columbia is at right now, and hopefully that changes in the near future. But to Stephen's point, it's not going to be super quick. In saying that, it is not a reflection of the people that are standing in front of us, and I don't care if you're a salary member or if you're an hourly member. We are a group that did everything in our power to make Mackenzie successful, and with what's going on in the province, we weren't able to do that at this point. So I thank all of you for the efforts that you put in while I was here and while James is here, because it is not a reflection of your guys' effort by no means. Going forward here in the next few weeks, we will have David will have some Q&A, so I'm sure there's a ton of questions, and there'll be a ton of questions once the news sinks in. And we do have some handouts for questions and answers, and it'll answer some of them. If in the next, over the weekend or the next few days, if you have questions, please write them down so you can actually bring them in. We will have support at the division here. We will have open door. You can come in. We will answer any questions that you have. David will be on site. I will be on site. And the management team will be on site to answer those. And if we don't have the answer for you, we will get the answer for you. We will be putting the facility, and at rest, and we will look after it and make sure that we have all the proper, things in effect, for lack of a better term, that ensure that if we bring it back up, that it's there for us to bring back up. So we'll be needing some of your folks' help to actually do that. So we'll be reaching out, for some help there. And I'm not sure exactly how many people and what that all is. Because in the next week or so, we will be building a plan on what that looks like. So I don't know that as of right now. Okay, so you will be hearing, some of you will be hearing from us. I think that's all I have for right now. We'll just let Kevin go, and then we'll take questions. Sure.
Yeah, so I think I see lots of familiar faces out in the crowd. Lots remember I was here. I was the mill manager here when we started this mill back up in 2012, and at that time, we had a pretty good fiber supply here, and I thought we were building a rocket ship that was going to be highly successful, and never dreamed in a million years I'd be standing in front of you people and delivering this message. But things have changed dramatically in the province since those days. I think Stephen talked a little bit about the situation we're in the province with the mountain pine beetle, and that volume, that upsurge of timber from the mountain pine beetle is gone now, and we're into what's called the midterm timber supply. So, as Stephen referenced, there's not enough available timber for the manufacturing facilities that exist in the province, so you're actually starting to see lots of closures happen today. That is not the issue here. There is lots of timber in the Mackenzie TSA. it's just more difficult to access, and I'll talk about that in a second. So as everyone knows, we're in a trade dispute with the U.S. and we're paying duties right now. And the government developed a market pricing system years ago to try and counteract the U.S.'s concerns about us not having an open and fair log market in BC. That system's worked off of winning bids, and then every July, the government redoes the calculation and determines stumpage for the next 12 months. So on July 1st, because of the bidding that took place back in 2018, partly because the market was good and partly because people need that extra volume to run their facilities, bid prices were extremely high. That data set affected our stumpage going for the entire province going forward from July 1st. So stumpage in the province of British Columbia jumped $15 on July 1st, and the indicated stumpage rate for the interior BC today is $32. The indicated stumpage rate next door in Alberta is $9. So there's a huge disadvantage right now. But because of the trade file, the government cannot make changes to the market pricing system. And right now, stumpage is extremely unaffordable right across the entire province, not just here in Mackenzie. Then you compound that with the effect of two, record-breaking wildfire seasons, the impact on fiber supply from that. Most of you know, if you travel through the Pine Pass these days, or even right when you look at the hills around Mackenzie, we have a spruce beetle outbreak going on right now. That is putting a pressure on timber supply. And then you've all probably heard about the caribou situation and the species at risk and the work that's going underway to try and protect caribou and setting aside area for caribou. So lots of constraints on timber supply in the province, and again, like Stephen said, too much capacity is driving up those prices. Then you look about Mackenzie, and I look after all the woodlands divisions for Canadian operations, and this is by far the most complex division we have. We operate on a watershed, a reservoir that's controlled by BC Hydro. We have the ability to run the reservoir down to levels below where we can operate. It requires us to carry a lot more working capital. And then you combine that with the fact that the provincial government put a partition in place here where we're only allowed to harvest so much usable spruce on the southern end of the TSA here, because the pine is gone, which means that we're going to get 80% of our logs up the lake, right? And that's expensive fiber. And combine that with the fact that, as most of you probably know, the fiber up the lake is no better than the fiber here. It's a lot of dead pine. And all that adds up to the fact that our log supply is expensive, and it's not producing a grade outturn that allows us to pay for those logs. So the lumber that we sell today doesn't even pay for the logs that we are buying to run the sawmill, making it uneconomic to run here. And until conditions change here, it makes it tough for Canfor to operate this facility here. So tough news, for sure. I sure wish we had a different answer, and I sure felt a lot different when we were restarting this mill, and lots of high hopes, but unfortunately the current economic conditions don't allow us to run right now.
Just before we open it up for questions, I'm going to ask James. I know he's got a message for the team here, so I'm going to ask James in a second. And one thing that I want you guys all to know, and Franco said, it doesn't matter whether it's an hourly team member or a staff team member, everybody here at Mackenzie was working incredibly hard to try to make Mackenzie successful. And James did not know about this. James did not make this decision locally. James was working right alongside you and his team, working alongside everyone else to try to make Mackenzie successful. We made this decision outside of Mackenzie, despite everyone here's best efforts. And again, we cannot sustain the losses we've been incurring. And it's no reflection on you and your efforts or the management team here as well. Everyone has worked incredibly hard. But James, maybe if you've got a couple of words and then any questions that you have.
Yeah, I won't take long, guys. I know this is going to take some time to digest, and it's not great news. Like Steven said, I just found out about this too, and I know that in one way or another it affects people in different ways. And but I'm not going to go and repeat everything that they've already talked about. I just wanted to say from a personal level, I've been here for 2 years now, and I've built some relationships and talked to a lot of folks out there, and I'm sorry that this has come to this, and I do want to just say thank you to all of you folks. No matter what happens in days to come, it was really the commitment and dedication of all of us here, working some extra overtime hours and different things like that. And shifts, and I just want to appreciate the efforts that everybody here has put in. It doesn't go unnoticed, and so I just want to say thanks. And if you guys have any questions after all of this is done, we will do our best to answer them, and in the days to come, like Franco said, we do have a Q&A that's already made up with some anticipated questions and answers, and if something on that paper isn't answered that you don't see there, then feel free to write down your questions and bring them in to your supervisor or to staff here, and we will do our best to, within the appropriate amount of time, get back to you with the answers. Okay. But anyways, sorry for the news, guys.
Okay, folks, so please, I know there was one question over there. Please make sure you do get a copy of the questionnaire before you head off. I know some folks are starting to take off. The questionnaires are at the back there. I wouldn't say that. We have to figure out the plans to, in terms of how we deal with the work in process.
You're stealing our jobs now, are you?
Fucking Christ.
No, I'm not gonna, I can't say that logs won't leave the site. We have to figure out the plans on how we wind down activities here, as Franco said, to make sure that we keep the asset in a safe, secure condition, that it's preserved for in the event that conditions change and we can actually see it resume operating. We've got to work and figure out those plans between James and Franco and the rest of the team. We certainly will look to do things like ship finished product out. I would expect us to do that, to get the product out to market. Not sure what we do with the rough lumber product that is there. We don't want to leave it sitting there forever and just to deteriorate, obviously, through the summer. So we've got to work out those plans.
How fast can a guy get a letter of recommendation?
I can't really answer that question locally here for Franco and James.
Yeah, I you know what, I don't know how quick we can make that happen, but I can get that answer for you.
Simple answer. All they need is a frickin' letter.
Yeah.
So I can go work somewhere else. I got a family to support.
We all do. I mean, fuck me.
More importantly, Franco, what's the long-term outlook of the markets? Because we know eventually they will. So we have logs, we have a good facility. So long-term, is there any hope for us? Can you throw us anything that's going to give us some positive feedback before we go home?
I can say this, you know what, the folks at Bavenby are in a permanent shutdown, completely done.
So we're not in that boat.
We're indefinite.
You're not in that.
Not
boat.
permanent,
That's
indefinite.
not, I can't stand up here and guarantee that we're gonna start this facility again, guys, because I don't know that, and I don't know the future. But it's an indefinite shut, which is different than a permanent shut.
That's correct.
Yeah, so they get severance and we don't.
To a point. They hold you on, yeah.
Yeah, but they have to go look for new jobs, folks. And
So do
we have a.
We're gonna sit here and wait for you to work.
Well, I don't know if I've got the right answer for all of you.
So I got a question for you. How much are we paying from the tariff to the States right now? Roughly, ballpark it.
Yeah, so it's not a number we totally disclose the full amount, but it's hundreds of millions. In our company alone, it's hundreds of millions of dollars.
So how do you justify spending $1 billion in the last friggin' year? And then you screw a lot of the Canadian BC divisions by shutting us down. You spent $600 million, what, in Sweden? Then you forecast that, oh, that would be shutting down, and then holy shit, corporate advertises. They just spent $120 fucking million down in the States. How do you fucking justify that shit?
So we've made investments out to diversify our operations into the U.S. South and into overseas, into Sweden, into Europe.
You spend $1 billion off of the fact that most of BC last year, you guys had fucking profits like you wouldn't believe. So you spend all that money, and then when it comes to the fucking hard and down and dirty shit, we're the ones that are getting screwed over. And that right there means Canfor don't give a shit about us. They never have. If they had spent $1 billion elsewhere within the fucking province of BC, we would have more than enough fucking money, we'd still be running. We got equipment there that, quote unquote, is prototypes. From 5 years ago, we were told we're trying testing this shit, and we're still testing it. But nobody wants to answer any fucking questions about it.
we did spend money to diversify our markets and protect the company, but in the last 10 years, we spent $1.7 billion in the province of BC. We spent a ton of money at this facility.
But now I know, Kevin, but now we're getting screwed because you guys spent $1 billion in the last 9 months. And all of a sudden you're saying we're off indefinitely, Bavenby is down indefinitely. Who's next?
So Bavenby is a completely different situation. We don't have the fiber in Bavenby to run the mill anymore. We don't have the fiber. It's just not there. Same with Chasm and all the other third shifts and stuff coming off. There's no fiber left for it. This one here is a simple fact, and Stephen said it. We are losing millions of dollars every month. How long do you think we can continue to do that here?
We've been going along the lines of we're not at the bottom of Canfor. We're sitting 3 or 4 above. What about the other mills that are below us? PG Soft one reason was behind us. We were below us. When are they getting shut down then?
So this operation is in the bottom quartile within our organization. It is suffering losses that we cannot sustain. It is not alone. Unfortunately, we have had to take downtime across the operations. All operations in BC, with the exception of our board business down in the southeast corner of the province of BC, which is in a totally different market, and our Alberta operation, all of the rest of our Canadian operations have taken downtime, and including some of them like Mackenzie that are significantly taking downtime today. And unfortunately, we're not alone here. We're also making an announcement at the same time on the permanent elimination of a shift at our Isle Pierre facility just out west of Prince George this afternoon. So we are restructuring and rationalizing our productive capacity down to match the available timber supply long term in the province of BC. We've made significant investments in Mackenzie, and despite all of those investments and the best efforts of everybody here, this operation is not profitable. It is not economic today, and we hope that those conditions change and warrant a potential operation here in the future. It doesn't go into receivership. It is part of our company, our organization overall. All right, folks. Oh, sorry.
Well, why don't you guys just sell us? All these years I've worked here, Canfor's never made money here. Why don't you just sell us, take that money like Context did, and then go? Just get out of here, leave us alone, sell us to somebody else, and there's your money, there's your profit. You won't have to keep shutting us down every 10 years, every year. Come on. You know, you're not just affecting us here, the whole town, everybody. You're just spreading like wildfire now. And we got the word, and I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and as we go into this indefinite shut, we'll be exploring all options that we've got to see what is viable in Mackenzie.
All your logging operations are all going to be down.
Yeah, they're all effectively down now. We have wood in the bush, and we got work in process that Kevin and Russ and Andy and the team. Not unlike on the operating side here, we have to figure out the plans on how we wind that up in an appropriate fashion. There may be still some opportunity. There's certainly wood out in the bush that may need to come into, there's some pulp logs that might end up needing to go to Paper Excellence or other consumers, so we need to figure that out.
What is the magic number as far as lumber prices go that we're looking for?
450. 450.
So I would say as a BC industry, from a BC perspective, given log costs in the province of British Columbia today, and when in consideration of the duties that we pay to the largest market we serve, which is the U.S., you need to be north of $420 a thousand U.S. 2x4 to be a break even in the province of BC. And lumber futures yesterday printed 332, 333. We're a long ways off. The gap is not insurmountable, and folks, I know this is devastating news for everybody here and your families, and we understand that this is not easy. The gap is significant. We have been trying to fight through this and taking short-term downtime, hoping that the market, that would stimulate some recovery in the market. We would let some of the surplus supply dissipate. It just hasn't happened. We see short false starts, a little bit of a run-up, and then back down, and again, it doesn't make it better, but you see the industry across BC taking similar action. So again, my apologies, folks. We sincerely regret this, and we'll be around for a few minutes if other folks have other questions. But thank you again.
Have you thought about buyouts for the
We haven't, but that's we haven't talked about that at all. But that's a good kind of question that we can get in front of David and record. You know, as Franco said, write down your questions, and we can try to figure out answers to them. We haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't had any discussion about that.